Back to the ETF Inspector. It's Friday, August 22nd, just about 7:30 in the evening, and this is our daily recap video for YieldMax funds, ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, and SLTY, the Ultra Short Option Income Strategy Fund. Before I get started, I got a couple shout outs. Maple Yield, he's a subscriber. He watches the channel. He asked if anybody would be interested in checking him out, so you ought to go check him out. He's pretty new. I think he started back in June, it said. Yep. He's making videos. He's already got 13 videos out since June. I was watching through him a little bit. And he talks about his journey using margin and loans, buying high yield funds, and then using the distributions to pay off the loan or the margin, essentially ending up with the shares that you never had to pay for. So that's pretty interesting. So check out his videos. He's obviously thumbnails look good, right? Videos are nice and clear. Sounds good, flows well, speaks better than I do. So check him out, and you don't have to be specifically Canadian to go check his stuff out. He's not just talking about Canadian stuff. He's talking about just ideas and ways to use investing. I don't use that, and I'm never recommending people do anything or don't do anything. I don't give financial advice. So just check him out, though, if you're looking for different ideas. All right, next, I'm on X at ETF_inspector1. I post when videos are coming out, things like that. Funny stuff like this. You know, the market goes through the roof today, and we just opened SLTY. SLTY fund managers hopping out of the car. But I got another shout out over here. This one really took me by surprise. If you notice, there's a little blue check next to my name. That didn't come from me. I just got a notification about an hour ago. BKE71018 has gifted you a subscription. I didn't even know people could do that. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully I'll be able to do some extra neat stuff with that. I don't even know what it entails. But so thank you very much, BK. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody. All right, let's get into it. Here's what the market looked like today. Reddit. Man, just crazy day. Crazy up day. Obviously, some of these funds now are outside of ULTY, and then we get down to SLTY, and SLTY only really had one thing go in their favor, so they had a rough day. But last I checked in the aftermarket, they made almost all of it back, down to 49, back up to 49.70. Not sure why, but and then if we take a look for ULTY, we'll look at these underlyings in a little bit. ULTY up 2.5% today, and then in a little bit more after hours, another penny. All right, so we go to our website, and I can't remember. Somebody asked me a question. Hang on, I might even be able to find it. Nope, lost it. Oh, Mike F6063 asked where we're getting these downloads from, the CSVs. So if you go to YieldMax's website, you go into the ETFs, you pick whichever ETF you're interested in. We're on ULTY. You scroll down. The nice thing about YieldMax compared to others, for starters, is they give you all the trade information. But even though other ones that give you some trade information, you got to go to each individual page. When you click right here on intraday trades, the file comes up, and it's all of YieldMax's trades for the day. All of their trades. Pull retire on dividends, covering Misty today. He gets a feel for what it's like to cover ULTY. Let's show him, though. There goes ULTY. And it just keeps going. SLTY, similar, but there's half as many underlyings in there. All right, so let's go through and see how they made out. For starters, we had to put some money to work. Well, very starters. We sold out of Mara. So if you noticed on the thumbnail, there was 3 underlyings we sold out of: Mara, Target, and Workday. We added Marvell Technology, bought $80 million worth. I looked them up. Their earnings are next week, August 28th. So likely an earnings play. They were in here before for a short period of time. So it seems like they kind of jump in and out with Marvell. And then bought some more Robinhood, Rocket Lab, AST Space Mobile, Affirm, Oklo, AppLovin. That always makes you think of McLovin and Superbad. Coinbase, CoreWeave, IonQ, Palantir, Reddit, Unity Software, and Upstart, Credo Technology, and Nebius. Those were all things that were purchased today. Just putting more money to work. All right, so with buying any new shares, ULTY trades a collar strategy. So down below, for all the shares that got purchased, there will be calls sold out of the money to generate income, and there will be puts purchased out of the money on the downside, just as downside protection. But we do also have some closeouts and rolls to next week. Anything that was expiring today, August 22nd, is going to get closed and rolled. A good portion of that already happened earlier in the week, but we do have some left, and not a great day to have to do that when the stock market takes off the way it does. But firm holding, closing and rolling to next week resulted in a $5.2 million decrease in value. Obviously, the protective puts ended up not being very helpful with everything shooting to the moon at the last minute of the week, not the last minute of the day. AppLovin, similar, closing and rolling to next week. Puts don't help you when the stock market when the stock runs up past your strike. So $399,000 debit. I think just in case I said credit over here, that was a debit. It cost us money. We had to spend money, $399,000 to close that out. AST Space Mobile, this is just this new shares, new options for the collar strategy to go with the new shares, collecting $131,000. Bitmine Immersion, closing and rolling to next week, cost us $976,000. This one's funny. So Webull, closing out for this week, rolling to next week, resulted in $40. Almost broke even. Then you take a look at it. Well, they closed 38,873 contracts, and they opened the same amount. They sold 38,873 puts and purchased the new ones to go with it. These didn't even exist. They sold 10 puts that they didn't have. I can show you on the holdings page later, but they're the difference maker. They made $40 off of selling puts they didn't have. So maybe a little glitch, not sure, but that's funny. Okay, Coinbase collecting $218,000, closing and rolling to next week. And then obviously there's also selling new calls and buying new puts to go with the new shares that were purchased. Credo Technology, this is just the collar strategy on the new shares, $667,000 collected. CoreWeave, close and roll, plus selling extra for the new shares, $886,000 debit. Galaxy, the collar strategy on the new shares, collecting $274,000. Robinhood, close out and roll to next week, plus selling extra for the new shares, $2.5 million loss or debit. IonQ, again, right, these would have probably been pretty cheap to close yesterday, but the stock went up at last day of the week. Closing and rolling the next week, $166,000. Looks like they sold them. I mean, they went up by $3 on the strike. Nothing's ever safe with IonQ. That thing can jump a couple dollars a day. Mara, this is just a closeout, so it's going to hurt extra because you're not selling the new options to go into the next week. So we're just buying to close. And since they had a good day, obviously it cost us. Let's take a quick look. So $2.2 million cost to close out Mara. But really, they might not even went in the money at all. Mara closed at $16.29. So if we would have, if we would have closed them yesterday, they would have cost 7.5 cents. Instead, they cost 47 cents to close today. But nobody's got a crystal ball. Marvell Technology, this is the new stock added to the fund. Selling calls, buying puts for the first time. Out till next week, $880,000 collected. Nebius Group closing and rolling to next week, plus extra for the new shares, $844,000 collected. Then we got a run 4 in a row of just selling new calls and buying new puts with the new shares that we purchased. Oklo bringing in 145,000, Palantir 193,000, Reddit 73,000, and Rocket Lab 95,000. All credits. Target closing out for because we sold our shares, we're done with them. And we had already gotten rid of the puts yesterday or the day before, so we just had calls we had to buy to close. Again, let's see if these would have been better to close yesterday. I mean, obviously they would have, right? Because everything went up today. They would have cost 19 cents to close yesterday. They cost 29 cents today. $285,000 overall cost. Unity Software, selling new calls and buying new puts for the new shares, $111,000 credit. Upstart, 66s got closed out for $458. I didn't think it ended that high. $68.85. So if they would have waited till the end, it would only cost $285 to close them out. But you never know, and you don't want to let things get within the last like 15 minutes on expiration day, because then some odd things can happen. Things can get assigned or closed or whatever outside of your control. These guys don't take assignment, so I don't know. But $6.7 million decrease or loss on that roll. And finally, closing out Workday. So we're not selling anything new into the next week, but this stock went down, so the protective puts kicked in, and they only cost 5 3 cents to buy to close the calls, while they collected $1.15 and $1.90 per share selling those puts. So it was a $519,000 profit on the end. So all in all, it did cost us $15 million today doing all these trades. Some of it from closeouts, some of it from stocks running beyond their sold calls. Now, you might think, oh man, well, if we would have rolled them yesterday, then we wouldn't have had to pay so much to close them out today. But if we rolled them yesterday, we just sold all the new strikes next week much lower, and they'd already be in danger for next week. So 6 in one, half dozen in the other. You're gonna pay now or pay later. A big green day is a good thing, as you can see. Check out that increase in value. $142 million increase in value based on what the underlyings did. Now, since it's Friday, we're not going to talk about how far in or out of money any of the options are, because everything that was expiring today got closed and rolled, and everything else is all the way till the end of next week. We've got a weekend in between there. We've got a week look ahead video coming out on Sunday where we do just that. So we're not going to do it twice. All right. So we will just kind of skip through these a little faster. Since it's a big day, we're going to enjoy the increases in value. So Affirm was up 6.7%. That resulted in a $9.7 million increase. These are all increases in values. If you don't sell the shares, it's not a profit or a loss. It's just these are increases in value. AppLovin up almost $8 million after going up 5.5%. AST Space Mobile up 4.6%, resulted in an increase of over $7 million. Bitmine Immersion, the big winner today, up 11.8%. Real nice too, because the calls only ended up going 0.7% in the money. So that means we were basically uncapped on all of that whole increase. It's not like we were spending dollar for dollar. Once we blew past the strike, we made it all the way to the end. So beautiful day, $11 million increase in value. Webull up almost 8% today, resulted in an almost $7 million increase. Coinbase up 6.5%, resulted in an $8.7 million increase. Credo Technology, it's a little one, 2.8%, $2 million. We still like it though. CoreWeave up 3.5%, another $2.5 million increase. Galaxy Digital up over 7%. We've shrunk our holding here for sure. They're only 1.25% of our holdings, so that resulted in $2.5 million increase. Robinhood up 2.8%, $4 million. IonQ up over 7%, $10+ million. Mara Holdings up over 5%, 3.9 million. I always like to look at the closing price compared to where we closed out and see if we got a good deal, and we did. 16.29 is where it closed, but we sold it at 16.43 and 16.39, so we actually went up by even more money than that. Nebius Group up 4.25%, $6 million increase in value. As you can see, all this red on the screen though is all the options that went into the money basically on the last day. Where did we leave off? We just said Nebius Group up 6 million. Oklo up 4.8%, just about 7 million plus. Palantir up 1.6%. They didn't have that big of a day compared to everybody else, but they've had a big year. $1.5 million increase. Reddit down 0.6%. What are you doing? Everybody's going up. You went the wrong way. $780,000 decrease. Rigetti up 3.8%. $5.5 million increase in value. Rocket Lab up 6.8%. Almost $10 million increase in value. SMCI, Super Microcomputer, up 3.7%, $2.8 million increase. New Scale Power up 4.6%, $5.7 million increase. Target, we closed them out, up 2.25%, $99.23. Let's see if we did better than that. Nope, $98.29. So if we'd have held on till the end of the day, we'd have got a little bit more money, but not the end of the world. Tesla up 6.2%, $5.7 million. Unity Software up 7.8%, $9+ million. Upstart Holdings up 8.3%, $11.9 million. So I think even though they weren't the biggest increase percentage-wise, I'm pretty sure that's the biggest in change in market value, almost 12 million. Our biggest was in the 11s, but it wasn't 11.9, I don't think. Right, it was 11.3. So Upstart's our big value winner. And then finally, Workday, the big loser. We got rid of them. Get out of here. 2.7% decrease, $2.2 million decrease in value. So all in all those increases with just those two decreases, Reddit and Workday, resulted in a $142 million increase in market value to our fund. That's why your share price was up today. We are not showing any increase in shares from yesterday. Got a pretty good feeling we got it today. I don't know how fast they have access to the money. Like when it comes in, does it have to come in and sit? Maybe if I ever get around to doing an interview, I can ask these kind of questions. But there was definitely a few $100 million sitting at their disposal yesterday. So that's probably a lot of what got put to work buying all those new shares today. The NAV before the day started was 561, so obviously we increased well today. Before the day started, 3.05 billion. That'll be up somewhere in that 3.2 billion range, plus however much people buy back in as they're coming running back, joining the club again. Most recent distribution, that was this morning, 10 cents. Did you buy more? I did. All right, so that's it for ULTY. Okay, we will go ahead and do a full weekend review plus guesstimate video on Sunday. That seems to be everybody's favorite. I always get way more views on that one. Much deeper dive, looks at every single option, how far in and out of the money it is for the week ahead to see the price ranges we need things to trade in. Next is SLTY. All right, so SLTY, I just said yesterday I'm not gonna cover them as in depth while they're so small, but it's Friday, we got a minute, so we can talk about it. So right off the bat, when they put money to work, it goes the opposite way. They sell shares even though they don't have them. That's why SS is sell short. So we're basically borrowing shares to sell them. You got to buy them back at the end. That's how shorting works. So, but it's not necessarily an option because it doesn't come with an expiration date. So we're just sold these shares. All right. So it was everything within the fund minus Intuit. So Intuit, we actually bought to close the shares and that we had just sold 2 days ago. Everything else, we just put more money to work, and it actually results in collecting more money. So they collected $2.1 million by selling short all these shares within the fund. And then once they do that, they start their reverse collar strategy. So they are buying protective calls, because since they have sold these, so let's just pick a normal one. They've sold strategy 400 shares at $357. Their goal in this is strategy goes down and you buy it back for less than 357, you got to keep the difference, right? So now you need protection in the event that strategy goes up. So you buy a call, because when you buy the call, if strategy goes up, that call becomes more valuable, and that will help offset, the loss you're going to take on the shares, because you can sell that call for a profit. Okay, so that's the protection. And then you're selling puts, kind of the opposite where you were selling calls with ULTY. You're selling puts to generate income, and then once in a while they will buy a put further out of the money to limit how much they'd have to pay to close it out. Other times they will sell an extra call further out of the money the opposite way to help pay for the protection. But in any case, that's about the depth we're going to go. Astera Labs on the reverse collar on the new shares actually cost us $432. I'm so used to saying thousands or millions. $432. Abercrombie and Fitch brought in $12 million. Applied Digital brought in $10,000. Did I say million? $12,000. $10,000 on Applied Digital. $15,000 on Bloom Energy. Cost us $300 on Bill Holdings. Brought in, had a credit, $1,700 on with CrowdStrike. Dell, everybody knows that one. $1,800 collected. This is Enphase Energy, I think. I'm still learning these odd ones. Enphase Energy, got it. Collecting $7,000. GitLab cost us $1,700. These are odd, but your reason being, on a enormous up day, all of a sudden there's a lot more premium in calls. So when you're needing to buy a call, it's going to cost more than it normally would. So that's why we're getting some negatives, even though we're just basically, we should be bringing in positive income selling the strategy. Into it, this was just closing out. So I did run the math. I won't go through it again. Basically, I can't. It was like a $9,000 or $12,000 overall profit between selling the shares. Selling the shares short 2 days ago, Wednesday, and then buying them back today, Friday, and then the money brought in on opening the reverse collar strategy compared to the money going out. All things considered, it was something like 9,000 or 6,000 or whatever it was. I ran the math based on 2 days. The percentage profit, it came out to like a 780% annual yield. So we'll take it. Don't have to look at the numbers. We just look at percentages. So if they can make 780% annual yield, stock moves every time, then we're going to make a killing. Obviously, they're not going to be able to do that. And I say I haven't actually bought in yet, so full disclosure, I don't buy things right away. I like to wait and see where they settle out first. Lululemon brought in $778 on the starting of the new strategy. Mara brought in $2,400. MongoDB, that's a goofy one, $5,700 collected. Strategy, stock ticker still makes you want to say MicroStrategy, brought in $4,600. And RH, $5,200 collected, but they had an odd day with RH. So we'll talk about that in just a second. All right, so everything was already sold out till next week, so there's nothing expiring today. They added more. Really don't want to spend a ton of time on such a small thing. In fact, if you go to YieldMax's website, unless they just did it within the last hour, you actually, they still haven't even put a whole together yet. There it is. So YieldMax, call me. I'll send you mine for a small fee. But you got each of these, right? Basically everything went up. I actually forgot to do my highlighting, but we can do it real quick. I just saw a negative 5%. So Intuit was the biggest loser, but technically on a short fund, that's the one that made them the most money. See, they made 10,000 off of Intuit going down, or they increased in value. Everything else going up big actually drops their value. That's why you've got all these negatives. All right, so when Bloom Energy went up 8%, it dropped the value by 19,000. All right, so we'll just kind of hit the highlight reel. Enphase Energy up 10%, dropped the value by 21,000. RH up 11.4%, dropped the value by 24,000. So we're not going to read through them all, but $138,000 decrease in value. So here's the quick story on RH. So it went up so much, 11.4%. You can see how far out of the money those puts got, that they closed them out, bought the close, and then sold the new ones at, where do we go? So we bought these 10 to close. Where do we sell our new puts? 232.50 and 232.50. Yep. So we readjusted and sold our puts at 232.50 because the stock went up so much. Closing in the 240s, and then somebody on X brought it to my attention. Let's see if the after hours is still the same. Down 5.8%, and it was down as much as 8%. Either way, that's below the 232.50. So after that readjustment, because of the big up day, it's the new strikes are already in the money going into the week. Obviously, after hours prices don't always hold, but we could end up in trouble off of that move. Not big trouble, but still. All right. They still don't even show. Actually, they might have updated the net assets to be like, 3.7 million. And it's making sense, right? They're showing about 7 million in cash, which I did input that at my bottom, but all my other numbers totaling up makes sense, right? Because they've if they have 7 million, the value of their shares is negative 3 million, and I want to say we're in the negative 3 to 4 million, or 3 to 4 or 5, I don't know. The numbers come close. So once they finally give us the holdings upload, everything will be a lot cleaner. I had to make all this myself, but the one thing I wanted to point out, I did look up all the percentages, the implied volatility, to see where they're trying to sell. It's looking like it's in the 80s. It's looking like this is going to be similar to ULTY as far as percentage that they're trying to pay out. So they did announce that the first distribution will be on the 3rd, or maybe that's the first declaration day. But either way, so there will be no estimate for them for next week, because they won't be doing it this coming week. It'll be the week after. All right, that's all I got for you. Got a dad joke of the day. So before we do, thank you everybody, all the support, everything. I have mentioned, right, that some of these videos are possibly on the chopping block. LFGY, when standing alone, not really doing well by itself. Less than 200 views. 200 views the day before. Same thing with my weekend video, the Saturday YieldMax individual income funds. I still do my personal trades because it doesn't really, I'm already keeping track of all my stuff anyway. But I'm keeping track of 7 different funds here, and it's really not doing well on here, and it's taking a whole lot of time. So I'm trying to provide the most I can for you guys while trying to have a life too. So, all right, that's it. Dad joke of the day. The world tongue twister champion just got arrested. I hear they're going to give him a really tough sentence. All right. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. For the time being, there still will be LFG for today. There will be Round Hill for today that I forgot to get it out earlier. My trades for tomorrow's already made. It's going to premiere at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I have a soccer tournament to go to with my daughter all weekend, so that's why I'm getting things out ahead of time. I will still make the YieldMax individual income fund video for this weekend while I decide if it stays or goes. And then Sunday is the video that you guys like the most, the ULTI LFGY guesstimate and week look ahead video. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good weekend.